morning, everyone. Um, this is my daughter's bedroom, and it's also my favorite meditation spot. It just has such good vibration. Um, the windows, I'm gonna show you real quick. It's full of windows all around. It's full of windows, and then some here. And in the mornings, I get all this light coming in. When it's sunny, the sun just gets in every corner of her room. So this is my favorite spot. And well, I would like to talk to you guys about psychic abilities and clairvoyance, clairsentience, all the clairs. What does that mean? It just means the ability. It's called supernatural, but it's not really supernatural. It's pretty natural to a human being. It's just what happens is that we shut down all these abilities to see and hear and feel things energetically, right? So I am a clairsentient, and I had always been that way. When I was a kid, I thought it was pretty normal that everybody would feel each other's feelings just by being with them, by interacting with them. And there's some people that can, but I realize it's not as common. I am able to feel what other people feel, especially my loved ones, the people around me, but pretty much everybody that I interact with, just within the first few words or the first look exchange, I'm just like, oh, this person, oh, their energy is just like heavy and dense, and I just like want to get the heck out of there, right? There's some times when I meet somebody and just by their smile, it's like, oh my god, did I meet you before? Like, were we best friends? Like, I can't remember that, but I feel like it, right? Their energy is so light and so bright and so happy, like I'm not able to see auras and all that stuff, but I just feel people. My husband, Brian, used to be like, whatever, just, yeah, Vanessa, whatever. But like at jobs, for example, I'll be like, I'm feeling a little density about this job or about my boss or about this lady, blah, blah, blah. And I would come home and then I would just vent, and just tell him, I think something's gonna happen here, my boss. I mean, and I would feel like there was this particular job that this particular lady would just run into my boss's office, and I just knew every time, like, I don't know how to even say it. Like, obviously we would all walk into my boss's office, right, for questions or to like for updates or meetings or whatever, but I just knew when she ran into my boss's office just to talk about me, right? And it turned out to be true. I actually got the utter shits of that job. And when I walked into my boss's office and I told her, I just knew this lady, blah, 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 she confirmed it. She's like, well, yeah, that happened and this happened. And I'm like, I just knew it. How did you know it? I don't know. Like, nobody told me. I just knew it. I'm probably going to expose my mom and my husband here and even my dad. He's on the other side. But like here at home, you know, I can feel when my mom has a headache. When she has a headache, God, like her density is just like, whoa, like she's obviously not happy, you know, because she doesn't feel well. But I just, by the look on her face, I'm like, oh, stay away. Just give her some pills or give her some essential oils right here. And stay away because this is not gonna be good. And sure enough, you know, she's just like worried about something, and that brings on the headache. And there's some energy densities that I just cannot stand. As much as I love and adore my dear mommy, sometimes I just have to walk away. And the same happens with Brian, with my husband. Sometimes he comes home and he's venting, you know, about whatever, let's say the job, just to say an example. He loves his job, but sometimes he'll come home and start venting. And if I'm eating, I cannot hear him vent because literally the food would stay right here or right here undigested. And you know, it's, I guess I'm an empath. It's called being empathic. You feel what the other person is feeling, but like not just like, oh yeah, I'm sorry this is happening to you, I understand. No, like I'm literally feeling the anger as he is venting. I'm literally feeling the headache as she is telling me she's worried. I'm literally, you know, and with my dad, he so he crossed over, right? I hate to call, when a person passes away, I hate to call it died or they're dead, right? Because they're not. We all are souls, energy that do not die. We do not just finish the moment the heart stops. We don't just finish and stop existing. We just don't. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? It can only be transformed. Well, same thing applies here. What is the soul? It's a spark of energy from God, from the main source. The universe all runs with energy. All the galaxies, all the planets, all the stars, everything in the universe runs with energy. So there is a source of energy. Some of us humans call it that source God, because that's what created everything and all of us, right? And we are part of that creation, so we're part of him. So my biggest thing with certain religions, and the reason why I don't follow those rules, with all due respect, is that they believe God is up in the sky. They believe God is a person. They believe God wears, you know, a white robe, and he's gonna come back, descend in an elevator and save us all. Like, that's not, no, I'm sorry, but that's, with all due respect, God is not a person. God, and I'm calling him as a he, right? I'm referring to him as a he because that's the way we grew up. But God is not a person. He can manifest as a person so that our human dense minds can understand and interact, and get the messages, the divine messages we're supposed to get, you know. But he is not a person. A person couldn't be this gorgeous, you know, couldn't create this much, couldn't be as divine, couldn't be as full of love. Us people have all kinds of humanly emotions, right? and we have good emotions, but we also have a whole lot of bad emotions. Some religions also think and believe that God is judgmental. He's not. He's not. God is all good. God is all love. God created us and loves us with not like a fatherly love type of thing, is way beyond that. God's love is literally the entire love of every mother in this world for their children, the entire love of every father for their newborns in every continent in this world, times infinite. Every love for like, imagine the person that you love the absolute most. That love times infinite, times the whole universe packed in one source. That is God, right? So that God does not judge. Who judges us? Ourselves. So we are the worst judgmental people. We are all connected, absolutely all connected, because we were all created from that source. And we judge ourselves when we judge others, right? So if I see somebody at the bank in a line waiting for their turn, and say it's a person that has green hair and piercings and tattoos, and by the way, I have piercings and tattoos, so I'm just throwing an example out there. And I'm all about not being that way. And I look at her and I start thinking, ew, like, who does that? That's not very classy. That she's this and she's that, and first thing we go to is she's fat, she's too skinny, or she's too this, she's too that. Well, guess what we're doing? We're mirroring. Even though we think, I'm never gonna be like that, we're seeing the ugliness not in that person, but in ourselves. So the minute we judge somebody, that's a minute we're damaging ourselves, because we're all connected. Same thing when we help somebody else. Something when we see something beautiful in another person, and not just beauty physically, but if we see somebody with a huge big smile looking at us at the mall, we walk by and they just like tilt their heads and smile at us, and you feel the love, right? And you think, oh my gosh, that lady, she's so sweet, she's so cute, just want to give her a hug just out of nowhere. You're actually giving them a hug. You're actually sending out that love. And guess who's loving themselves? Ourselves. Again, we're all connected. So what you throw out, you bring back. Well, let me go back a little bit to where I kind of started. My dad. So my dad was this person, because, again, he transcended. He's on the other side, so he's all light, but he's still here. But when he was a person, when he had a physical body, when he was embodied, when he was alive in a body, him and I were super close. We are even closer now, and I'll get to that. But he was literally the incarnation of happiness. He was such a happy guy. He was born in a very, very, very poor family. He was the oldest of 9 brothers and sisters, and he literally helped my grandpa and my grandma raise the rest of the kids. And he would joke, he was so funny. He made me laugh so hard. You know how some, like, especially when we're teenagers, we're like, oh my god, such a dad joke, you know, you get a little embarrassed. He never embarrassed me. He embarrassed me in other ways because he did not like boys, right? He did not like boys around his little girl. So any boy, anything that resembled a boy, could not come close to me without the look, right? He just stared at him like, who's that? I don't like him. You haven't even talked to him. I don't care. This boy, he can get the hell out of here. So anyway, he other than excuse me, other than with boys, he was the happiest guy ever, and he was liked by so many, and he helped so many people, and he helped my grandparents bring up and raise all his brothers and sisters. And he jokingly would say, you know, every time my mom and dad would get out of the house, they'll come back with a kid. You know, and there was a point in time where I was like, okay, would you just not leave the house, because every time you leave, you bring a new kid. And then the last ones, number 7 and 8, were a set of twins. So you know, he's like, I remember telling them, don't leave, you gotta bring a kid. And guess what? They brought back 2. I was like, okay, this can stop. He was already, you know, close to being a preteen or a teenager by then. So he was like, all right, you guys can stop now. And they were premature. So they were so poor that they literally, and I had just talked to my uncle. Him and I are really close. My tío Mario, I love you. He was a twin, and my tío Jaime, they were twins, and they were so poor that they literally put them in a shoebox, my grandpa's shoebox, and stuffed them in there with little cotton balls, and then put a light bulb right next to them to heat them up. I just confirmed a couple nights ago when I spoke with him on the phone, they were 5.5 months gestational, 5.5 gestational months when they were born. 5.5. Holy smokes. And they survived with no medical care. And I remember my dad would say, you know, like, I had to take turns with your grandma to take care of the babies. And I mean, one of them died a couple times, but then he just started breathing again. I mean, it's funny because they were fine, thank goodness. And the way he said it, it was just like, he's such a matter-of-fact guy, right? My dad. And just so funny. He brought so much life and happiness to my heart. He gave his all to me. When my mom and dad got married, they got married around 28 years old, and they took the longest time to conceive. They couldn't have babies. 13 years later, here I am, right? With the help of a doctor, I came into this world, and ever since, like, he gave himself to me. He was the best dad ever, and now he's the best heavenly dad ever. He worked his butt off throughout her life. He became, from being very poor, at the age of 6, he was diagnosed with polio, and he almost lost a leg. Well, the doctor actually told my grandma, you know what, he's not gonna survive, so might as well start making arrangements. And my dad was there in the room, so he remembers that, and he was like, you know what, no, I'm not gonna die. I don't want to die. I'm gonna survive. You know, the heck with that. And he survived. His leg was severely affected, but that didn't stop him. He would grab a bike and ride across Mexico City to go to college because he wanted to be somebody. He wanted to help his family get out of that ugly place they were at, because he said that there were a lot of drug addicts and people, just a harmful environment. And he helped his family. He said my grandpa used to call him quite often just crazy guy, just a crazy dude. You know, the day he graduated and got his first car, his first job, and then bought his car, you know, saved up, bought his car, el cucaracho, which means the cucaracha, the cockroach, because he said that his car looked like a cockroach. um, he was so proud of himself, and he brought it home, and my grandpa was like, what are you talking about? Only wealthy people have cars. And my dad was like, well, I'm wealthy now, I guess, you know. And my dad would, or my grandpa would just shake his head like, you're crazy, what are you doing this? And my dad actually taught my grandpa how to do addition and subtraction and multiplication, and then inspired my grandpa at the age of 60, I think 65 or 68. He went back to school and finished elementary. So that was super cool. You know, he accomplished a lot. He gave everything to everybody, didn't matter what it was. And he always told me and Brian, you know, like, I'm an only child. So he was always like, I'm gonna come up here and with your mom, and I'm gonna live with you guys. I'm gonna sell my house. I'm gonna give that money to you. You help pay off this house, and then take care of us, right? Just, we'll live here. We'll take care of each other, and we'll help you with the kids. We'll help you with the house, and that's it. And we always considered them, obviously my parents, as part of the family, because I live here in the U.S. My parents' house is in Mexico, so they would come up to visit, you know, 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year, and then go back to Mexico, and then come back again, and so on and so forth. Then Corona hits, right? And starts getting difficult to travel. It starts getting difficult in every aspect, and my dad's like, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just start our paperwork to become residents, and then eventually we'll sell the house. We'll come up here and we'll just stay here, because there's gonna be a point in time when we can't travel anymore. We had those plans. They come up this past August, and we were doing these paperworks, and for both of them, early December comes, and well, actually right after Thanksgiving, I woke up one morning and I was this super happy, because finally, right? Like, my thoughts were like, we're never gonna say goodbye anymore in an airport. Like, that's awesome. They're gonna be here with us. That's what I want. And then one morning after Thanksgiving, I woke up and I felt this heaviness in my heart. I was like, there's something wrong. And I told Brian, I feel like I'm mourning the loss of somebody. And he just looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, it's okay. Like, nobody has died. We're all here. We're all healthy. No, you're good. And the next morning again, you know, I woke up. I'm like, I feel so sad. I feel like I'm mourning the loss of somebody. And he just looked at me like, you're crazy. Okay. That went on for a few days, a week. And then early December, I heard my dad started coughing one morning, and I was in my office working. I work full time from home. And he was coughing and he was sneezing. And I woke out and I'm like, here you go. You got the sniffles. So I started giving him vitamin C and all these. He used to call me my witchery, all these witchery pills. And uh, he was doing good. That was right around Tuesday-ish, early December. On Friday, I start feeling super ill, like super cold, big headache, body aches. Saturday and Sunday, I couldn't get up from bed. And Monday, I walk out of my room and I see him at the top of the stairs. He always cooked breakfast for the girls. And he was there standing, telling my mom, "Could you please make breakfast for the girls? Because I can't." And he turned around and he was shaking like this. And he was pale. I'm like, "What's wrong?" He was like, "I don't know, Mamacita." He used to call me Mamacita. "I don't know, Mamacita, but I'm gonna go and lay down because I'm shaking. I'm so cold. I just drank water with ice, and I think that got me, but I'll be fine." I must say, before that, when I was really, really sick, he was not. He just had the coughs, but he was fine. He was fine. He came downstairs one morning, one afternoon, and after taking a nap, and he was moved, like he was teary-eyed, like something moved him sentimentally, emotionally. He came downstairs and my mom and I were on the couch. I was laying on the couch, lifeless, right? And he came downstairs, he sat on the couch, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Your grandfather came, my deceased grandfather. Father." And I'm like, "Oh yeah? Well, that's awesome, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah. I was asleep and I was kind of like half awake when I heard him say, 'I'm here. You need to get up,' because he used to call him pato, which is duck in Spanish or in English. Um, and the reason why, I mean, this is a little cruel, but it was out of love, obviously. Due to his polio, my dad's leg got a little affected, well, a lot affected, and he used to waddle when he walked. So my grandpa called him Pato, which is duck, because he waddled. But again, it was all out of love. And he said, he just talked to me. He said, "Pato, get up, I'm here. I healed you. You're already healed. You gotta get up. Come on." And then I heard his whistle. I'm like, "Really?" "Yeah." And he started crying, but not like sobbing. He was just very moved. In that minute, I remember that all of my uncles that have had crossed over have said that they've seen my grandpa right before they pass away. And I remember thinking in my head, "Wait, why are you seeing my grandfather? You're fine. This is just a little cold." I obviously didn't say that, but I thought about it. And then I started putting two and two together. I'm like, I felt like I was mourning somebody, and now my grandfather showed up. Oh shit. And when I saw him that following Monday like that, I mean, my heart knew it was coming, right? I didn't, like, my physical body, my head, my heart wanted to think, "No, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this." So I knew it was Corona. So we started isolating. We didn't send the kids to school. Brian started working from home. And it was also the Christmas break, approaching. He kept getting worse. as the days went. And every morning, I was hoping that at least today is the day that he feels better, and he would wake up, he would stand up, walk a little bit, maybe go to the bathroom, come back, and lay down. On a Saturday, I told Brian, you know what, we need to take him to the doctor. I mean, I have no doubt he's gonna get over this, but he might need antibiotics because it might, pneumonia might have started. And he took him to the doctor. When he walked out, I was gonna give him a hug, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna make this a big deal. They're just gonna walk into urgent care, they're gonna get antibiotics, and then they're gonna come back, and he's gonna feel better tomorrow because antibiotics work quickly, and he's good. And he put his shoes on very slowly. He was already hurting so much, and he turned around in the garage and said, I'll be right back, baby. And he went like this. And I wanted to go down those couple of steps to give him a hug, but I didn't want to make a big deal. And I didn't want to make him cry. So Brian took him to urgent care and calls me. And he was like, the doctor said to take him to the ER. His oxygen levels are 88. He's gonna need oxygen. He said, you want to meet at the hospital? I said, yes. So I was getting ready to drive to the hospital, and he calls me again. He's like, hey, I'm at the hospital. They won't let me in with him. And he had to go to the bathroom really bad, so he literally said, okay, I have to go. And they wheeled him in, and they won't let anybody in with him. I knew he wasn't coming back. I knew that was it. A big part of me wanted to believe he was just gonna stay there for a couple of days, and he was gonna come back, and it was gonna be okay. But I knew, and it's a no. It's a knowing, right? Just as I know that my name is Vanessa, just as I know that this color is blue, I knew this was his time. And he spent 2 weeks at the hospital. I called him every day, at least three times a day. And he progressively kept getting worse and worse and worse. He got over the virus, and he felt really well. He was fully aware. He was conscious. He was, every time I would call him, how are you, Daddy? I'm good, Mamacita. I'm good. I'm getting ready to go back home. I think the doctors will send me back home in a couple days. I think I'm ready. I feel great. And then a couple days went by, and his oxygen levels kept dropping and dropping until he started struggling even on high flow oxygen, and he was maxed out. He was at like 95% or more, to the point that he had to be transferred back to the ICU and get supplemental oxygen, so he was wearing a mask of oxygen on top of the high flow at 95%, 99%. So at that point, the doctor started saying, we're going to have to intubate him because his lungs are not responding. And he got all kinds of therapies, antibodies, antiviral, steroids, asthma, all kinds of stuff. They started him on vitamins and all kinds of stuff. And like I said, he got better virally, but his lungs were shut down. Well, we would come to find out he had diabetes. And the guy did not tell us. He was very strong-willed and hard-headed and such an amazing person. And he loved his sweets. We thought he was controlled, but he was not. obviously, having for breakfast donuts and cookies and milk and drinking beer with his best friend, which is Brian. He used to call him his best friend. He would say stuff like, Brian is not my son-in-law. Brian is my best friend. And always said, thank you for giving me my best friend. Thank you for finding my best friend and marry him. So on Christmas Day, on the 25th, we got the news that he was gonna get intubated. So we talked to him on a Zoom call, and that was the last time I saw my daddy awake. We told him how much we loved him, and all of us, including my mom, because my mom also got corona. All of us got corona except Danny. My mom was still in bed, was still in and out of the hospital, but she was here at home at the time, and all of us yelled, like screamed at the same time, I love you. And he did this, and he's like, yee-hi. We got him right in the heart. My Danny kept doing meditations with me. And we would close our eyes right here in this room. And we would send him Danny's little star. And we would picture her star traveling across the sky, right into the hospital, right into Abuelo's chest, and lighting him up. And it worked, because I know he felt so loved. I would call him and read his book, his favorite book. I bought a book. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, from my favorite author, Joe Dispenza. And he loved it. Every morning we would have our chats, would go drop off Danny or go put her in the bus, come in, and he was already, like, the minute he heard us going down the steps, he would come out of his room just to see us and just to say goodbye to Danny and start making breakfast for Maddie, because Maddie was virtual at the time. And I would read his book, little excerpts of his book, and he was so thankful. And he could barely hear because the oxygen flow was so strong. That was overwhelming. But I could read a few paragraphs and at least help him get his mind off of things. I believe he didn't suffer. I mean, he probably did, but not as horrible pains. He had to get shots in his belly every day. He was uncomfortable. He hated those machines and those tubes, and he let me know, and he let the doctors and the nurses know. He would never get mad. He just got irritated a couple times, because he said, what do they think they are dealing with, an animal? I'm not a dog. They cannot just flip me back and forth. And I'm like, do they not treat you well? No, they treat me well. It's all right. Just, I'm frustrated. I'm like, I know, Daddy, but this is all for your own good, and you're gonna get better, and blah, blah, blah. And then the one time, he got really frustrated because he wanted a Jell-O. And he kept asking for Jell-O, and the nurse kept bringing apple sauce. You're like, I don't want applesauce. Can you please tell them I just want a damn Jell-O? So I had to call the nurse and tell her, the ICU nurse, and he downed his Jell-O. But at the end, he just couldn't swallow anymore. He just felt like he was choking. He couldn't do it. So that night, he got intubated. He lasted a couple days until one night I called them to see how he was doing, and his blood pressure was already compromised. His body went into shock after the intubation, and his kidneys were starting to get affected. The next day, they were planning on putting him on dialysis. And I said, no, we're not going to do this to him. He often told us, me and Brian, like I said, he was very matter of fact. He was like, I'm never going to be old. I'm never going to be this wrinkly old man that you have to change diapers. No. When it's time for me to go, the fuck out of here. I need to go, and nobody's gonna stop me. So I remember those words. He loved to live life. He loved every aspect of life. He would just go outside, pull a chair, sit down, and look up to the sky, to the birds, to the trees, wave at people, listen to music. That was his meditation. That was his connection. And I told the nurse, I said, is he even gonna make it? Like, tell me the truth. If this was your dad, what would you do? And she gathered the doctor, and that nurse told me, you're just prolonging something that is gonna happen. Your dad is not gonna make it. I mean, he might make it a few days longer, but dialysis is gonna be another shock to his body. I said, no, this is not what he would like. I talked to Brian. We sat on the floor, talked to him. The four of us cried. And this is where the miracle started. And I'll make a separate video about this, but when I stood up, I helped him stand up. I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and I hugged him. When I hugged him, I was still hesitant. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? Is it time to get disconnected? He gave me life, and I'm taking it away from him. How does that work? How is that even fair? So we hugged, and all of a sudden this music started playing, and I remember I asked him, I said, well, what's that music? Like, I don't know. I checked my cell phone. Nothing. He pulls out his cell phone. Pandora activated somehow. And a song was playing. Wouldn't you know what song was playing? Silent Night automatically started playing in my husband's back pocket. And Silent Night, well, the title of that same song in Spanish would be literally translated to Night of Peace. That was the first sign of many to confirm that this was the right time and the right thing to do. This was his night of peace. He was letting us know it was okay. This was his divine plan. And that I was to drive to the hospital, shaking, crying, smiling, full of love and surrounded by divine beings, because I couldn't have made it otherwise. To disconnect him,
to hug him one more time, to hold his hand one more time, even though his hand was already cold and not responding. That was the first time I put his hand in my cheek. And I said, "Puppy, I'm here." And he didn't do this. He always did that. Always did that to my cheek, and he didn't. And my human side felt terrible about this. But also my spiritual side gave thanks, because he couldn't feel that pain his body was under. His organs were already failing, and I did not want him to feel that. So he was already outside of his body. He was quite possibly sitting right next to me, or on the bed, or floating around somewhere, doing this to my cheek. I kissed him. I kissed his face so much. And I told him that I was going to make arrangements for him to come home. I told him, "Daddy, I'm here. I promised you I was going to bring you home. I promised you I was going to come pick you up. So I'm here. Let's go home. Let's go home. It's time to go home. I'm going to tell the nurses to get all those cables and all those tubes out of you. We're going to pack up, and you're coming home with me, okay? Because I promised you I was going to bring you home." And I know with all those kisses he would have been dying laughing. And I could actually hear him laughing, but I could also hear the oxygen machine. And I don't know if he was sobbing, but he made it. These movements, like every once in a while. There were no tears, thank goodness. But when he heard me come in and start talking, his heart rate went up, and he was already unconscious. But his heart rate went all the way up to, like, I don't even know. The nurse had to come in and disconnect the heart machine thing, the monitor, because I like it scared me. Like, these alarms start going off. I'm like, oh my god, what did I do, or what's going on? And she said, "Oh, it's just he's a little excited, that's all." I'm like, "Can he hear me?" He's like, "Most likely not. I don't know." So I come to find out that was his way of acknowledging me, his way of showing me love, his heart, right? But he was not in his body anymore. He was just hanging by a thread, by the silver thread. He was ready. He was ready. His time on earth had been completed. I wasn't. But my soul knew from the very beginning. My soul was thankful, and is thankful, that I got to say my last goodbye. And my soul honors that departure. My soul absolutely honors his life and his transition, and is just as sacred as the day he was born, as the day I was born and he held me for the first time. I held him for the last time. I was the last one to hold him. And boy, that is an amazing honor. That is a divine gift that sometimes my human side has still a little trouble I may need some therapy. I don't know. I found this really good therapy called EMDR. In my case, way better than regular psychotherapy. He has manifested himself in so many ways. My grandpa, being indigenous, they used to call him White Feather. Hence the name of this channel. So my dad referred him as White Feather. And when he came downstairs and told me that my grandpa had visited him a few weeks before he transitioned, he said, guess what? White Feather came. And that's when I was like, what? You know, I was happy and I was like trying to like put a smile on, but I knew that wasn't good. I mean, it was good because he didn't transition by himself. He was always guided. There was always his own daddy with him. My ancestors, my honorable and sacred ancestors. And it's a lineage of spiritual ancestors, and now it's my turn. I was giving that gift, and the day he transitioned, my dad transitioned, was, so I didn't know this, but when I talked to my uncle the next day, he told me my dad picked to depart right at midnight. It was literally, well, the lady said it was 12:07, but I believe it was right at midnight, between the day that my grandmother passed away and the very next day, which was my grandfather's death anniversary. So my dad's mom passed away on the 28th, and my dad's dad passed away on the 29th of December. My dad picked right at midnight to depart. Tell me if that's not a miracle. So technically he shares the same departure anniversary of my grandfather, because they counted as 12:07. So his departure day was on the 29th, which is the same one as my grandfather, White Feather. Ever since, my dad has been manifesting with all kinds of white feathers. I have white feathers in my nightstand. I have white feathers in my car. I have white feathers, a huge tree of white feathers, a Christmas tree lit up, made of white feathers, that a very dear friend of mine just gifted to us out of nowhere. She's like, I just felt like gifting it to you. I was gonna sell it. She has a little super cute store. Sherry Keller. It's called Ika's Creations. It's right there at the markets in Hanover. Visit her. She has all kinds of stuff, and she helps Make-A-Wish kids with her profits. Oh, she's so hard. I love you. And she was gonna sell that tree, but then she was like, nope. People kept asking me how much was it. I'm like, no, this is for a dear friend of mine, and she literally gifted us a huge tree, the size of Danny, probably taller, made out of white feathers, and she did not know that my dad manifested himself with white feathers. And that, to me, is just miracles. I will go more into the manifestations of my dad in another video, because I'm already, I thought, well, I'm gonna make this video super short so people actually stay with me, but yeah, I talk a lot, so it's been an hour. Sorry guys. I just wanted to share that. just get it on my chest. Watch what you can. Stay with what resonates with you. If you have a story of a loved one who has recently or even a long time ago crossed over, please share it with me. Please tell me on Facebook, and maybe we can do like a live session with both of us talking about it. If you believe in signs and miracles and signs from the other side, from your angels or from the loved ones that you have in the other side, let's connect, or leave a comment down below, and let's connect. I love to talk about these things. My dad is present every day. There's not one day that goes by that he doesn't send a sign. Love you guys. Thank you so much for staying here. Thank you so much for listening to me rant. I'm not very good at this, but I do it with a lot of love. Thank you so much. Have a very blessed day.